I'm only a small part in people's journey, an integral part when it comes to their tattoo, of course, but just helping people along the way, even if it's a memorial tattoo for a dog that passed away. That's a very sad thing for everyone that has a pet or family member or something. But from there, I guess, if they can start healing or building themselves better, changing their life in a way, then sweet as,
Wow.
It's good. It's an amazing part of it. It's something that I never really planned on doing per se. I just wanted to draw pictures and get paid for it.
Before we get into the episode, I just want to say a big thanks to my mate Andrew here at Airwolf Forest Motor Company for supporting the episode and the podcast.
We specialise in high-performance British, American and European cars. As a listener and a supporter of David Mel's podcast, I'd invite any listeners to get in touch, have a look at our website, www.efmc.co.nz. Come and see what we've got out here and we'll take care of you.
So welcome. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you for inviting me as well.
Pleasure to have you. This is great. You're the first ever tattoo artist on the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have no idea how this is going to go, but I guess we'll find out.
We will. Have you ever been on any podcast?
No.
No,
to be completely honest, I listened to my first podcast this morning, which was between you and Troy from Leadhead.
Gotcha.
Most of the time I'm listening to music because it is so much easier for me to concentrate on drawing and tattooing with less speaking. So just something that fits the mood.
Yeah,
usually.
that's cool. That's cool. I quite like the sequence of events, the reason why we're here. So the referral network, I quite like this.
Absolutely.
I like it from a business perspective, but
Yes.
also from a podcast perspective. So
Word of mouth, man.
So
Best way to do it.
Yourself, you connected with Troy from Leadhead.
Yes, I've tattooed him about 9-10 years now.
Wow.
Through him, I know Rick from Rick's Ribs and most of everyone else that has ever done work, for me around the house and stuff is, Troy's the guy to know.
Troy is, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know the previous strand of connection before those guys? Like, do you know the Jock from Ellesmere Auto?
I don't know Jock, no.
No. So he's who I heard about Rick from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
then
cool.
Dave Risdon, a connection before that.
Yeah.
So funny, right?
Yeah, it's just 2 degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so good. So tell us about the business. Like it's not necessarily a business podcast, but personally I'm quite interested in it because it is quite a unique
Absolutely.
part business, part art, part conversation like we were talking about before.
It's making a business out of a passion, I guess, essentially. Like I never, I didn't go straight from high school and get an apprenticeship as a tattoo artist. I kind of fell into that after drawing for my entire life. So from my point of view, when I've been offered 2 apprenticeships over the years. The second one is what qualified me and got me seriously into the industry. I guess it's figuring things out along the way because there's no actual qualification. You can't get like tattooing level 4 or anything like that. So it's all skill based and everyone's in it for themselves in a sense. You've got to build your client base based on who you are as a tattoo artist. So I guess I've been quite lucky with being able to talk to a lot of people and figure out their jumble of ideas and make it into something awesome and unique, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing. How do you do it? Do you pre-draw it?
Yeah. Would you like me to run you through
I'd love to.
The whole process? Okay, so generally through social media or word of mouth, somebody recommends me or, somebody stumbles upon my page. They usually message me and they're like, hey, could you help me out? These are my ideas. I will organise a consultation with them at the studio, sit down, do some sketches, show them ideas of tattoos that I've seen that might be relevant based on shading style, just to sort of pinpoint exactly what they're after. From there, we'll find the ideal booking date. I'll talk pricing with them prior to make sure they're well aware of how much it might cost and when we would book them in. So booking date, about a week before, I will send them a elaborate sketch based on the really crude toolbox sketch that I would do with them in the consultation, and then from there, if we need to edit it, and then I'll do a line drawing which is, called the stencil. It's what I would slap on. You've got a couple tattoos, I believe. So, the purple lines that we follow.
Yeah.
Based on the design, and then from there I would do all of the shading based on the conversation in our consultation. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Basically, you wing it really effectively. Yeah.
Do you ever have that pressure, or do you ever get fearful when doing a job? Like, do you ever have any like fear, or is it you're so far deep into your career now that that's long gone, or?
A bit of both. I wouldn't call it fear anymore. In my apprenticeship, I was really anxious about doing a good job because, you're crucially aware that this is a permanent change to somebody's body. But then pretty soon you learn that every tattoo is permanent, and you put your personality into that as well. So you make sure that it is the right tattoo for the right person.
Plenty of water here.
Sorry, I'm coughing all over the place.
That's all right. Yeah. I guess from a person that has tattoos, I roughly understand the process, but maybe for those out there, like, how do you choose an artist to go with?
I guess it is all based on the style of tattoo that you're after. So, with Instagram, with social media, Google, Pinterest, all of this, you can figure out, exactly what you're after. If somebody doesn't know the style they're after, I recommend they take screenshots of, 20 or 30 tattoos they like the look of. They might not like the specific theme, but just they like how things are done. And then after a couple of weeks of saving screenshots, you can look at them. You'll find a common theme. It might be fine lines, so real thin lines, dot shading, real delicate stuff. You might like bright, bold, traditional tattoos. You might like realism, and then you can sort of narrow it down and pinpoint exactly what it is that you're after. And then from there, you can find tattooers locally or, nationally that do specifically what you want. And then, there might be somebody close to home. There might be somebody in Auckland that only does the style you're after. Then I guess you kind of have to message them and see if you gel with them. I tend to do a lot of ongoing work with, a lot of Japanese sort of style bodysuits. So if somebody doesn't get along with me in the way I do things, then maybe I'm not the right person for the job for that.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, isn't it? Like, you've got technical ability, but if you're not a vibe, if it's not, for whatever reason, personality-wise, you're not getting on. Yeah, it's probably not a good fit.
I think I can get along with a wide group of people, as long as somebody's not a complete piece of shit, basically.
Yeah,
like a drug dealer that sells meth to children, then I'm definitely not going to vibe with them.
No.
I tattoo a lot of young people, and typically with younger guys especially, they're all very showboaty, and I'm going to get this tattoo to be real tough, and it's like, yeah, cool. And, 10 minutes in, they're like, oh, this actually hurts. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, as I was saying to you before, man, most of my clients become a friend in some way, because we're sitting quite often for hours on end talking to people, and it's spread like 3 to 6 weeks apart, or could be 6 months. So you have a catch up with your clients every time they're in. You find out what they're doing in their life, what stages they're at in their life. And I'm 36, so I've got 36 years of living under my belt, so I can. If somebody's going through their first breakup with a serious girlfriend, I've got a point of view that I can say, just look after yourself, talk to your mates and things like that. Empathise a wee bit. I've got a lot of my body tattooed, so if somebody's like, what's your stomach gonna feel like? Well, it'll feel like a tattoo on your stomach. It's not gonna be great. But afterwards, when you get out of the shower after you get home, you will look at yourself and you'll be like, shit, yeah, I sat through that.
Yeah.
And then you'll probably have to book in for another, session in 4 weeks' time type of thing. because it'll be a huge tattoo, because I'll probably talk you into a bodysuit, you know? Or
Yeah.
at least try to.
Yeah. It's a stereotypical question, but is there a part of the body that's more painful than others?
I'm holding up my palms. That
Wow.
is my most painful tattoo. Generally, anywhere that's got more nerve endings is going to be more painful. The solar plexus, right under your sternum, if you're getting tattooed with coil machines, you know, the big loud bastards, that will suck. The cartilage between your ribs feels bruised for weeks afterwards.
Oof.
Yeah. Typically speaking, fingers down by the cuticles, that rattles people.
Right.
The back of the knee sucks, not so much because of getting the tattoo, but you can't have a straight leg, but you can't bend your leg for probably 2 weeks afterwards.
Wow.
It's such a highly used part of the body, you know, that it generally just sucks to heal.
Yeah.
Some people think that the neck hurts a lot. I didn't mind the sides of my neck getting tattooed until it came to healing them and
Right.
trying to reverse a car with like a big flaky neck tattoo. You know, it's quite a tender thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the average age? What would be the average age of your client?
Hugely diverse. According to Facebook statistics, the people that like my posts more are males between 25 and 35. But I've got 18-year-old clients. I've got clients that are getting close to 60. Generally, I'd say between 25 and 35. It's kind of my peer group. And with a lot of word of mouth, their peer groups as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found getting tattooed in my early 20s to be a lot easier. Being over 30, you can't be bothered being in pain for long periods of time, so that the tattoo sessions become shorter, and you generally just, you can't be bothered. You don't want to sit still for like 6 hours because you think, man, I need to go home and mow the lawns, and you know, the gutters aren't going to clean themselves.
I got responsibilities now.
Absolutely, yeah. But no, most of my clients are males. Not all of them. I'm not going to say all of my clients are males. I'm not going to say males make the best clients either. Generally, especially younger males, they tend to spend all their money on the piss on the weekend before their tattoo appointment, and then, you know, change a whole day to a half day tattoo.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically speaking.
And what would be the split between one-offs, like someone just coming in for one-off, one and done?
Well, every client, I start tattooing one tattoo, and then it generally morphs from there.
It generally goes to more.
Whether that one tattoo is just a small tattoo and then they build and elaborate. A lot of my clients come in for a sleeve, for instance, and then because they've got two arms, they think they're unbalanced, so they get the other sleeve. And then they look between their arms and their chest is naked, and so after that they might get their stomach and then their ribs and then their back, and then hey presto, it's a bodysuit, you know.
Yeah, right.
Another guy that I have tattooed extensively is friends with Troy. He came in just for one tattoo. It was on his forearm that turned into a sleeve. Now I have just finished his leg after, you know, everything from the collarbone to his belt is all tattooed in a Japanese black and grey bodysuit. Finished a leg. We're going to do his bum cheeks next because, you know, you kind of have to do that. You've got to get full coverage, and then we'll work on his other leg, and I guess he'll be done after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in maybe a year or so, we did both sleeves and full torso.
Wow.
Because, he had one tattoo before, or one big tattoo, had a couple small ones, and he just loved having the tattoos. And I feel with a lot of my regular clients that I play a small part in building their self-confidence, which is a pretty magical thing as well. You know, you have a client come in, they're a bit shy, they get a couple tattoos, and then after a while they're indestructible, you know.
Yeah, right.
They don't worry about talking up to that girl they fancy at the bar or something like that, you know.
Really?
They talk to
Interesting.
their boss and get the pay rise they think they deserve, you know?
Yeah.
It's a pretty special part of the industry. Like, I'm only a small part in people's journey, an integral part when it comes to their tattoo, of course, but just helping people along the way, even if it's a memorial tattoo for a dog that passed away. That's a very sad thing for everyone that has a pet or family member or something. But from there, I guess if they can start healing or building themselves better, changing their life in a way, then sweet as,
Wow.
it's good.
How
It's an
good.
amazing part of it. It's something that I never really planned on doing per se. I just wanted to draw pictures and get paid for it. Even in high school, the career coach asked me, what do you want to do for a job? And I said I wanted to draw pictures and get paid for it.
Wow.
Growing up in Ashburton, that wasn't really going to happen. So they said, you're good at electronics. Why don't we put you through your Sparky apprenticeship? And anyone that knows electronics and being a Sparky, they're not really the same thing.
No.
There is electricity in electronics, but very low voltage. But I guess I went to a rural high school and they want tradies and dairy farmers. So none of that really suited me.
Yeah.
So yeah, here I am, drawing pictures. getting
Yeah,
paid for it.
right. Wow. And so did you do your Sparky ticket? Nah.
No. I didn't really like sitting behind a computer and doing corporate identities. There's not much creative freedom in it. So my first job was at a liquor store, and I did that for 6 years because it was easy and I got discounted alcohol, which, it's a good thing when you're in your early 20s and your late teens, but it's not really the type of job you strive for. It's an easy job to do. I ended up getting a job doing digital printing and screen printing and sign writing and stuff, and that was a little taste of creativity. Even though I was doing jobs for other people, I could see the applications of, I can print stickers with my designs on, and that was a cool feeling.
Nice.
And then I got offered my second apprenticeship, and yeah, sky's the limit from there.
Yeah, right.
I think if it wasn't for that apprenticeship, I'd still be doing sign writing. I reckon I'd be doing some more hand-painted enamel stuff and some more creative stuff, but I reckon I would have gone through that industry. It could be a bit more of a safe industry, but I guess with tattooing, you definitely get out what you put in. And if I'm willing to put in, 10 hours a day between tattooing and designing for people, then I like to see the results of that, a full diary with people, booking in months in advance. It's a very good feeling, not so much a feeling that you have made it, but you are doing what you've trained for,
Yeah.
You're getting somewhere. You're
Yeah.
getting your tattoos on people, hundreds of people or thousands of people after 11 years, It, and a lot of the time, with going back to the word of mouth thing, a lot of my clients, turns out they know each other outside of the tattoo studio, and they're like, oh, did Josh do that tattoo? Did Corpse Wizard Tattoos do that sleeve? And they're like, yeah. And that's quite a cool thing where, a client comes to me after 6 months of me not tattooing in them, and they're like, oh, I ended up partying with a dude that's got one of your sleeves, and then, says the name, and I'm like, yeah, he's a cool dude as well.
Yeah.
So having a relatively recognisable style, it's quite a cool thing,
That is cool.
Yeah.
Where's the future going? Where do you think you'll be in, say, maybe by the end of this challenge, the end of the
10
next
years?
Yeah.
That is a very good question. Currently, I don't know where the tattoo industry is going in the current climate. Tattooers need clients willing to spend money on tattoos for us to survive. So, I guess personally, I'm going to hunker down and get through any financial downturn. There's no other job that I can really, willingly fall back on and pay the mortgage. Plus I've got a studio and I don't want to lose that, so I'm going to be doing that. I'd like to think, in 10 years' time, we would have gotten through this wee economical downturn. Tattoos aren't necessarily a luxury item. A luxury item is basically something that you flaunt to show your status in society, whereas tattoos, they are for, generally speaking, the working class, and I think people like to reward themselves with a tattoo, or to show where they have been in their life or where they're planning on going, and put their personality on their skin. So I think personally, in 10 years' time, I would like to be, running a studio, whether it's the Doom Room 2.0 or something like that, who knows. I love working with other tattooers. After 4.5 years of a private studio, you miss that. You miss the drive other people, other creatives give you. So yeah, I'd say in 10 years' time, I'd love to run another studio. I might have another couple apprentices under me, training, the next generation, and working with some other like-minded people that just love tattoos, love the industry, love the culture, the whole shebang. It's a very diverse industry. Everyone's got their own different ideas of what makes a good tattoo. And whilst not every tattooer agrees with another tattooer, I guess we've got the common ground of the tattoos themselves, Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great name, by the way. The
Of course,
Dome
was it
Room.
called the Doom Room.
The Dome Room, yeah.
Yeah, it's it rolls off the tongue and it sticks in people's heads. My wife and her sister actually came up with that name. As always, I was thinking way too obscure, way too out the gate. I was thinking like the Abysmal Doom Abyss, or
Right.
something that kind of sounded
Too creative.
like a metal band. Absolutely, I overcomplicate the shit out of lots of things. And then my wife Courtney was just like, "Why don't you just do the Doom Room?" And I thought about it for a day or so, and I was like, "That's fucking sick. It's
That's
simple,
good.
it's straight to the point. It illustrates my style of tattooing, which is I love tattooing dead shit and creepy stuff. I like just using black ink from time to time and just doing some gritty, dotty, morbid skulls with cobwebs and things like that. It's great. And so the Doom Room was pretty much born from that, like a nice name that rolls off the tongue. And I guess, like, if you ever come to the studio, man, like, it's a bit of a paradox as well. Like, it's not a big, dirty, dark dungeon. We've got, like, sludge green walls with paintings everywhere. We've got plants, we've got crystals, we've got, handmade jewellery. Yeah, it's nice and bright, and it is kind of paradoxical. But then I guess everyone that is booked in for a tattoo will be able to sympathise. When you've got a tattoo coming up, it's the day of the tattoo, you've got that bittersweet reality of walking into a tattoo studio. Yes, you're going to get a new tattoo, but you're going to have to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there is that sense of impending doom from anyone that travels into Fendleton to get their tattoo.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Like, I'm no expert, but it is an interesting thing because it's permanent, and I think so many things aren't permanent now, and I think that's why I'm fascinated by it.
It's not permanent in the universal sense, like within several months of your death, your tattoos won't be there anymore.
True.
Within your lifespan, definitely they're permanent, which I think is why people need to think about what they're getting tattooed or who's doing the tattoo beforehand. We were discussing before about how some people shop for price point. Well, that's fine. I would definitely recommend to people to find the right artist, not just the cheapest. You can go see your mate that's been drawing since high school and he can tattoo you with some Trade Me stuff in his garage, but you're probably not going to find it's going to be the greatest tattoo. And I quite often liken it to, dentists. You don't go see your mate practicing dentistry in his garage. It's not really the greatest thing. You're probably going to be disappointed. There's apprenticeships for a reason. Because of the popularity of tattoos, anyone can buy a kit off Trade Me and think they're a tat wizard, but they might not be as great as they think.
Yeah, it just doesn't strike me as something to skimp on.
No, not really. There's the whole saying that everyone's got to start somewhere, which is a defense of scratchers and home tattooers sometimes. Yes, everyone's got to start somewhere, but there's not that many startup gynecologists in the garage. They might say they are, but it's there's the right way and the wrong way in my book.
Yeah. Wow. I'm speechless.
That people tattoo out of the garage? Or?
Oh, just in general, just interesting. Like, I just can't get myself into the mindset of someone that would want to go and risk getting a shitty tattoo to save a couple of dollars.
I guess it depends on the motives. Like, everyone's been at a party and stuff like that, and it's like, it would be a great idea. Let's get a tattoo of SpongeBob. And then somebody's like, I got a tattoo kit, and then all of a sudden they're getting a tattoo of SpongeBob.
And then one thing leads to another.
One thing leads to another, yeah. And then, like, there's funny stories behind it. There absolutely is. I guess there's always going to be funny stories behind it. There's always going to be silly tattoos. Absolutely fine. Like, if you want to do that with your body, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not your mum. I think tattoo regret is a real thing. If you look at a tattoo that you got drunkenly with a mate and it still makes you laugh, sweet. I do worry sometimes about the hygiene side of things, the bloodborne pathogens and things like that. Definitely don't get a tattoo if somebody else has been tattooed with that needle, because that's sort of asking for trouble.
Totally.
Infections are a real risk when it comes to tattoos. You're piercing the skin. But at the end of the day, funny tattoos are funny tattoos. I guess for myself, that's meant that I've needed to do more cover-ups over my career.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I mean, they are a big thing. Some tattoos cannot be covered up, like the dirty, not dirty, but, the 90s trucker tribals that you see, the big black zigzags. It was such a big phenomenon between the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They're horrendously hard to cover up without just blacking out the whole arm,
Yeah, right.
I guess the people that got them enjoyed them at the time.
It seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, if they still enjoy them, sweet as. More power to you. I love when people enjoy their tattoos. They are horribly difficult to cover up, though. And a lot of the time when it comes to cover-ups, it's not about what you want over it. It's about what will work over it. Because there's nothing more frustrating for me than doing a cover-up that it just isn't the greatest cover-up. So being able to see the tattoo through the new tattoo, it's quite a tricky thing, and so that the darker, the heavier, the bigger the old tattoo, the harder it is for me to do a good job. And a lot of tattooers don't do cover-ups because, they do a tattoo over an old tattoo, and then the client goes and says, oh, this is done by so-and-so. But it's not going to be as good as a fresh piece of skin, so it's not a true representation of the artist's abilities. It's a cover-up, it's the quality has to be sacrificed somewhere. Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah. What's been the most amount of tattoos that you've done for someone? Has someone like in terms of dollar value?
Oh God, dollar value. The dollar value side is a tricky thing. I don't even really think about the dollar side of things. As far as coverage goes, you've met Troy. I have done 1.5 of his legs, his full front, his back, his throat, his head, the whole thing. Hands, feet. Yeah. I've done a lot of his tattoos. I've reworked a lot of his older tattoos to sort of revitalize them a bit. So I don't think there's an area of that man's body that I haven't tattooed.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't done his butt cheeks yet, though. It's on the cards, but
yeah. Yeah. And do they need redoing after a while? Depends, I guess, on a few...
There's so many variables that come into it, like the quality of the tattoo initially, sun exposure, life changes. Every tattoo that is exposed to sun, it gets free radiation treatment, free laser treatment, effectively. A lot of people don't realise that until, it's 3 years down the track and they get a brand new tattoo next to their existing tattoo and the ink is a lot darker. It's just a fact of life. Skin regenerates, skin changes. With our amazing immune system and lymphatic system, we literally wee out pigment particles, so tattoos do fade. Your skin changes over the years, so your tattoos will too. So you can always go over an old tattoo. whether or not you need to. Like, I personally love seeing, guys that have been tattooed in the 1980s, and they might have been in military service. So you see this blown out dirty dagger with a kiwi in the middle of it, and it's a passport stamp in time.
Yes.
That they weren't the greatest tattoos. They were the best that could be done at the time. The ink was less stable than it is now. These guys wouldn't have used sunscreen in like 40 years, so they're going to be old, faded hunks of shit by today's standards, but fuck, they tell a story.
Yeah.
And that dude has worn them proudly for all of these years, which is such a cool thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has technology evolved much in the last few years in terms of the guns and the ink? Yeah.
You got to call them machines.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Machines, sorry.
Machines. Yes, absolutely. The technology with the needles themselves has changed a lot with the popularity of it internationally. You've got medical grade stainless steel, whereas, it's always been stainless steel, but you go back to the 90s and most tattooers in New Zealand had to solder their own needles. So there was human error there. The machines you've got some silent rotary pen machines now. You've got battery powered machines. The technology in the ink, it's way more stable. The FDA approved inks are way more refined, way more sterile, way more hygienic. Even common practice has evolved. Like, it wasn't that long ago, like 40 years ago, you could get a tattoo with no gloves. Because people know about, hepatitis and HIV now, everyone wears gloves. Cleaning practices, the availability of medical grade cleaning products, disposable needles, disposable cartridges, disposable grips, it's all working in our favour.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people monetizing this, the tattoo needle distributors and stuff like that. Sure, it's a big industry now, but technology has come a huge way. Every few days on Instagram I see a new machine, a new evolution of something. It's a hugely competitive market, but I guess that competitiveness, everyone's trying to have a new edge, so we're getting lots of breakthroughs, battery powered machines. You take a 12 volt battery from 20 years ago, it would have been huge. There'd be no way you could hold it in one hand and do a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
But now, for like the sacrifice of several grams, you've got a battery that can last like 12 hours of tattooing.
Wow.
Like, even when I first started tattooing, rotary machines weren't such a big thing. They've been around for ages. One of the first machines from Edison was a rotary machine in the late 1800s, but as far as tattooability, they weren't a big thing, and now all I use is a rotary machine. I've still got my old coil machines. They're horribly loud, they're horribly heavy, they have to have an element of steel, so there's constant RSIs and stuff you can get. I still use them from time to time just for nostalgia, but
right.
Every day I can use a super light, super fast machine, and with technology that was built in Russia, so with information sharing technology and international shipping, I've got that in my studio now that I can use every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is there a number of different suppliers, I would imagine, to get the...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's easier for New Zealand artists to just shop online from a New Zealand supplier. Importation tax is a pretty big killer. So if you get anything over $1,000, you have to pay importation tax. Pretty much any good machine is over $1,000. So, yeah. And some of the sizes of the packages are huge. If you're getting... disposable grips, you're getting like 500 of them. That's the size of a small bloody car. So getting that over here would cost hundreds of dollars. And every time you spend money on supplies, you've got to break that down into individual tattoos. Like, what's the cost of the overheads of doing these tattoos? Because you've got to factor that into your pricing as well. So yes, you can get things online from overseas and pay the importation tax, but a lot of the time it's easier to just buy it from somebody locally that has already done that. And chances are it'll work out roughly the same. It might be a bit cheaper for you to do it from international sites. You've also got to think about how long it might take to get here. You've got to think about the quality of the product as well. Like, nobody wants to be tattooing with the cheapest of the cheap product and then have a shoddy result because of it. So quality is a huge factor in it. And the New Zealand companies that we buy from, they buy superior products compared to some of the cheap crap on the market. You've got to be a bit careful. You're always going to have access to the cheapest of the cheap. A few years ago, coming out of China, there was a company selling glorified house paint as tattoo ink. Whilst you could technically tattoo that, there'll be huge infections and stuff like that.
Oh.
And as a tattoo artist, if something like that happens because you cheaped out, then your reputation is ruined. And reputation is everything in this game. Nobody wants to go to the guy that spread hepatitis. Nobody wants to go to the guy that fucks up more tattoos than he gets right.
Very unforgiving.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess so it should be. Like, every tattooist should constantly be reminded that what they're doing for people is a permanent change to their appearance. So we've got to wear that. We've got to take that, on board. We've got to give the tattoo a bit of honour, do it justice. Yes, there's lots of people out there just doing it for a quick buck, but I dare say the people that are going to last in this industry, the people that are going to retire on tattooing, they're the ones that care about their customers and care about doing a good tattoo every tattoo. There's a bit of a saying in the industry, you're only as good as the tattoo you just did.
Nice.
It doesn't matter about, that really cool tattoo you did 6 months ago. If you've done garbage in between, it's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, like doing every tattoo justice.
Yeah,
it might
nice.
not even be something that you like doing. It could be a Pinterest tattoo or an infinity symbol or something like that. But you've got a tattoo that client sitting in your chair, like it's your missus or your best friend, or you've got to do it justice. It's got to be a good tattoo. You could fuck it up. You could get it out in 10 minutes and take the money, but that person's not going to come back if you do a shitter, are they?
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, everyone needs to be the best one you can do at that time.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, it kind of is what it is, man.
Yeah. Have you got a favourite one? Have you got a favourite tattoo that you've ever done?
Oh man, I have done so many cool tattoos over the years. A barber, he used to be a barber, he now works in a government department. He said, "What would you like to tattoo on my entire throat?" So I turned his throat into a giant gaping mouth with heavy black in the middle and big spiky teeth and centipedes and maggots crawling out.
Wow.
That's a cool one. Troy's back. That's got to be another good one because of the sentimental side of it. It's to do with his relationship with his dad. Motorhead lyrics, and the artwork was based on a legend in the lowbrow community called Coops, the big red devil smoking the cigar. That's one of his designs. Lots, actually. There's too many to count. I quite often find myself on my Instagram page going back several years and I'm like, oh, I remember that one. That was such a cool tattoo, or man, I can't believe that dude let me do something so grim and freaky, or the color scheme is so cool on that one. I love doing slimy greens with bright pink highlights,
Right.
because I do quite a few different styles, man. Like, I like so many different tattoos for different reasons.
Yes.
So it's hard to pinpoint a favorite tattoo. I couldn't even look at the tattoos that I've got and tell you what one my favourite is, to be fair.
Well, I guess they all represent something different, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got very few sentimental tattoos. I've got my son's initials tattooed on me. Before my wife and I got married, we got the first letter of each other's names. I've got my parents' initials tattooed on my thumbs. Most of them are just things that I think are cool. None of them really match. None of my tattoos really match because as an artist, my brain is fucking sporadic over the years, Like, I'm into Japanese tattoos for the past few years, but the name Corpse Wizard comes from doing really dark, gritty, medieval tattoos of, like maggot-covered skeletons wearing a crown with no gods, no masters above it, So, yeah, like, I think because of the diversity, it's a really hard one to pinpoint a favourite in any sense.
And what about your tattoos? Have you done any on yourself?
Heaps.
Heaps, really?
Yeah, most tattooers tattoo on themselves as
Right,
practice.
right.
Most of the time, it is their first experience with human skin, going from, you know, old school pigskin or a silicone or pieces of fruit, you know, because nothing that you can practice on is quite like a human. And because I guess when you're an apprentice, everyone's willing to let you have a go, but you can be the client and the tattooist in your own tattoos. So on myself, I have done both thighs. I have gone over everything on my left leg. We had this little thing a few years ago called COVID, which means that I couldn't tattoo anyone outside of the house for, I think, was it 7 weeks?
It was a long time.
I think PTSD has destroyed that memory, but yeah, no, it was either me tattooing myself or tattooing my wife. But if I was tattooing my wife, then there was a 6-month-old child in the care of a 7-year-old child. So that worked for like 30 minutes one time. So what else did I do? I ended up finishing off my stomach tattoo on myself, which was a bit of an experience. It was painful, but not in the sense that my stomach tattoo hurt, but bending over and seeing the tattoo hurt. I prefer to be like, you know, maybe a foot or so away from the tattoo that I'm doing so I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But getting your own eyes a foot away from your stomach is no easy thing, you know.
No.
But yeah, there was slim pickings. I couldn't invite anyone round and tattoo them. We ended up turning our dining room into a tattoo studio just for myself. So yeah, every once in a while I'll just be like, fuck it, I'm going to tattoo myself. And another thing to do with that, we didn't have a photocopier at home, so every design I did with a pencil and a fine liner pen, and if I had to edit something I had to restart right from the start. And then turn that into a stencil by hand, and then stencil it on, and hopefully it would be perfect. So
Old school.
Old school, yeah. But I had nothing but time on my hands, so why not?
Yeah.
You know, you can't mow the lawns and have a 11 a.m. beer every day of the week.
No,
you'll
no.
kill the lawns.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I guess the thighs would have been pretty good real estate for doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could just wipe them off, I would totally do it again. Because it's such a fun thing to do. It's a big, relatively flat canvas that you can just tattoo whatever the hell you want on your thighs.
Yeah.
When I was an apprentice, I turned up to the pub. I was catching up with some mates. We used to go down to the Harewood Tavern every fucking second day, pretty much. And one day I turned up after a quiet day at work, and I just dropped my pants in the smoko area, and I did a portrait of 2 of my mates with their faces fused together. And of course it got riotous applause, and yeah. Just dumb shit that's fun shit.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh man. Has there been many people you've turned down over the years? Either from a design standpoint or just not a vibe?
Yeah, it's not often. Circumstantially, there has been some picky clients that they've got their ideas based on, you know, maybe copying somebody's tattoo that they found online. And I don't want to copy that tattoo, so I try to come up with a solution of, you know, my version of that tattoo. And if it's not close enough to the original, then they might not like it. In which case, if you want a copy of the original, that's fine. I'm not going to do it, and any good artist probably won't copy a tattoo they've found online.
Right.
Like I've turned down gang tattoos, obviously. I've turned down a 16-year-old wanting a rose on the side of their neck. At the end of the day, I'm not their mum. But I also don't need to play a part in them potentially not getting their dream job. Like, you know, hand tattoos, finger tattoos, turn them down on a few young people. A couple of times with face tattoos, you know, somebody's like, can I get a face tattoo? And I'm like, well, you've only got a few other tattoos, so, you know. At the end of the day, I've got to weigh it up. Like, I could do this tattoo, I could do a fucking good job of this tattoo, but if I refuse it, somebody else will do this tattoo if the client is hell-bent. The thing I have to think of, do I want to put my name on that? You know, I mean, I can turn down any tattoo for any reason, but yeah, it's generally only like gang tattoos. I don't do Māori or Pacifica tattoos because I'm not culturally qualified to do so. I could probably make it look good, but as far as putting that all-important meaning, I have no idea what I'm doing. And there's people that specialise in that. So for various reasons, I've turned down quite a few tattoos. I think it is a strength of tattooers to not pretend they know how to do everything.
Yeah.
Even if somebody can do something better than me, I'm likely to recommend them. We were talking before about a portrait of a dead grandmother, say. I can do a portrait. I'd prefer to do a portrait of a rock star with some fancy colouring and stuff like that. But if it's like a dead family member, then I would tend to recommend somebody that specialises in portraits. Just because I don't think I can give the tattoo the respect it needs. And to be honest, I don't want to do anything wrong. I've never met your grandmother. I don't know the sparkle she had in her eyes. All I can do is photocopy the photo the client supplies, especially if it's a family member that's passed away. I can't take any more reference photos of that person. I can't get an HD photo. So if all you've got to work on is a passport size photo, I hope there could be somebody that can work with that, but yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely.
And I think the more you do of that, the more it lends to your own credibility. And
I'd hope so.
Likewise, I'm sure the reverse happens, right? I'm sure people come to you because you've been
Facebook pages dedicated to crappy portrait tattoos and stuff. I don't really
sure.
want to be on there.
No, you don't want to feature on that one.
Yeah, no. And I think you're right. I think an honest opinion based on experience and stuff like that. Everyone deserves that honest opinion. I think in any industry, there's always going to be, people in it for just a quick buck. But yeah, I guess it's finding that right person that isn't going to rip you off. And I don't really like the idea of earning money based on dishonesty. It seems kind of like a bit of theft. And
Yeah.
I mean, tattoos are expensive enough, so I might as well do a good job of a tattoo, right? And if I don't feel like I can do a good job of a certain person's tattoo, then maybe I'm not the right tattooist for them.
Yeah.
Could be so many reasons, but yeah.
Yeah, good call. And did you say that your wife could be a tattoo artist?
I reckon she could, man.
She could be, yeah.
Absolutely. She is an amazing creative person. She has attention to detail, sometimes to a detriment. She was doing macrame wall hangings a while back, and she'd made coffee for 16 years as well, so her wrist is stuffed. But as soon as she starts a macrame piece, she has to finish it. So it could be 6 or 7 hours worth of work. She will most likely, between parenting duties, just focus every spare second to that. And her wrist will be absolutely stuffed afterwards, but no, she's an amazing woman, an amazingly creative person. She seems to know style way better than myself. I look like I dress myself every morning, and because I dress myself every morning. But, I think that a bright orange hoodie works with any colour, whereas my wife has a lot of style. I think she would be able to do some really cool, big ornamental tattoos, floral stuff. I think that she would be a perfect tattooer. Currently, with a couple kids, though, she does the majority of the school pickups and drop-offs and
nice.
all of that. She also runs the Doom Room as well, because I'm absolutely hopeless when it comes to that sort of thing. I forget to pay bills all the time. My focus as a tattoo artist is basically just drawing pictures for people and tattooing. And unless prompted to do so, I will revert back to that, because that is my happy place. That is simple for me. I know how tattoos work. I know how to draw pictures, but I don't know how to balance the zero stuff and communicate with the accountants, I probably could, but it takes such a long time to do the tattooing side of things that sometimes I just can't be bothered doing the learning side of things,
Well, I think there's value in sticking to what you enjoy and what you're good at. And,
I do say Courtney
stuff.
doesn't necessarily enjoy doing all of the bill paying and stuff. but we both kind of have a dream when it comes to the Doom Room, and I tend to focus more on the art side of things. So luckily she's awesome and she does all the bill paying just so it gets done.
Nice.
So I don't forget to do it, and all of a sudden we've got no electricity because I forgot to pay the bill, you know.
Good team then.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I like that.
I think she needs a bit of a pay rise when it comes to the Doom Room and everything she does. And of course, it's not just the work side of things. She also does everything as a mother and a wife as well. She's an amazing person. I don't know why she puts up with me half the time because, I mean, I get mood swings all the time and all sorts of stuff like that, and I forget all sorts of shit. But yeah.
No one's perfect.
Oh, nobody's perfect.
That's right. And you were mentioning that you've also got some artists that come in and do commissions, is it?
Yes. It is a commission-based thing. We've got some, you'd call them resident artists.
Right, okay.
So we've got Lissy Tattoos, we've got Chili, so ex-Chi-Chi Inc. Brad Raven is there part-time until he moves to Thailand. The new apprentice, Jaden Dyer, is sort of learning the craft. He's only tattooed himself once and hasn't been unleashed on real humans yet, but, you know, he's working his way up to it.
Yeah.
We've got a few. We've had a few other people in for guest spots over the years, so that's just a 1 week long type of thing.
Yeah.
We get all sorts of people through the doors. We quite often get messages from other tattooists saying if we have space. And whilst I thoroughly enjoy that, we don't have the hugest amount of space in the studio. We've also got a very tight-knit family vibe. So, you know, we can't just have any old tattooist waltz in off the street and work there. Like the team at the moment is amazing. We all get along. We all take the piss out of each other, which is great. We all take the piss out of the apprentice because he's not a real person yet. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's kind of like a subhuman at the moment, but he takes it well.
He'll morph though. He'll morph into a full human.
Yeah, he'll get his butterfly wings one day.
Yeah.
But no, we all take the piss out of each other. We all care about each other and care about what we did in the weekends, and you know, whether it's jump starting your workmate's car one day or, you know, helping somebody move house, then we are a pretty tight-knit family.
Yeah, nice.
And I guess with the more people you have in any workplace, the more risk there is of conflict, I guess. You know, there's always somebody that doesn't like doing the dishes, and there's always that passive-aggressive flatmate that leaves the angry, strongly worded post-it note on the fridge. But no, I think at the Doom Room we're all really good to hang around, and we're good at giving each other work as well. Like, Lissy does amazing, bright, bold, traditional tattoos. So if anyone sort of walks in off the street, then we'll point them in that direction. You know.
Yeah.
Chili has a really interesting take on morbid, macabre designs with usually like a wee bit of colour, a bit of red for the blood splatter and stuff. She's also got a knack for tiny little details. So if anyone wants like a little fine line writing tattoo, then Chili would be the perfect one for that, you know. Everyone does things in a slightly different way. And I guess having a variety of artists there means we can pick the best artist for the job.
Yeah, nice.
It's a pretty good team.
Love it.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's curious about either getting a tattoo, or I guess two different questions, but what would you say to someone that's interested in maybe getting into the industry?
That's a tricky one. Do it the right way would be my big piece of advice. If you start tattooing from home, you won't have a mentor there telling you the right or wrong way. Rule number one is, don't give your client a nasty infection. So unless somebody has taught somebody how to do, a clean tattoo, hygiene wise, then you might just think it's clean enough, You might think that washing your hands after a tattoo is as good as gloves, but it's actually not, So if somebody's looking at getting into tattooing, have a strong portfolio. Draw every day and document all of the drawings. It's okay to fuck up a drawing as long as you learnt something from that drawing, but definitely have a strong portfolio. Don't just send a text and say, hey, you're looking for an apprentice. Actually approach a studio. Go to all of the good studios, have a talk to the artists, get tattooed. Because the best way to build a rapport with the tattoo artist is by getting tattooed by them, and sitting there and spending 6 hours yarning with them about local sports teams or whatever, But don't just buy a shitty kit off Trade Me, because you'll never work at a studio, I wouldn't think. No. There has been the exception of self-taught tattooers gradually making it to a studio, but it's a long road, and I guess with reputation being everything, then there's definitely the right and wrong way of doing things.
Yeah, and the second follow-on part, like if you're listening to this and you're thinking about getting either your first tattoo or perhaps a second, but for whatever reason you don't have a go-to, would the suggestion be to find an artist that you resonate with, or would it be find the style?
You don't have to get along with every tattoo artist.
No.
Like if you meet somebody and they treat you like a piece of shit, then probably don't give them your money, If you walk into a studio and you feel like you're just out of place, probably, you might be out of place. It might not be the studio for you. I definitely think the best starting point if you're looking for a tattooer is to just jump on social media and find the right artist for you. Firstly, based on style. But just because somebody does the style you like doesn't mean you will instantly gel with that person. Tattooers are humans. A lot of the time we've got fucking all sorts of mental health issues and shit like that. We are human, but we're introverted humans generally that are forced to be extroverted. So, there's some quirky ass tattooers out there. You can't get along with everyone. But I think if you first focus on the style of the tattoo that you're after, that's a good starting point, And if at any point you meet the tattooist and, you just can't seem to get your ideas through their head or vice versa, it might not be the tattooist for you. It's definitely a relationship thing. You've got to vibe with each other. You've got to get along with each other, because you'll probably be there for several hours at a time. I guess the exception to that is, if you're after just a sort of Pinterest tattoo, we call them, so something that any decent tattooist should be able to do. You should be able to approach anyone and get, just a single line name. It's fundamental basics of tattooing. So if you and your homie want like a little matching tattoo, you should be able to just go into a walk-in tattoo studio and get a good tattoo. But like for the bigger work, the sleeves, the back pieces, the bodysuits, you've definitely got to vibe with somebody. You've just got to, because you'll be with them for hours and hours on end, and nobody likes sitting at the pub with that dickhead from high school they don't like,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because how long would a sleeve take, generally speaking?
Black and grey would be 4 full days, so 6 hours a day.
Right.
Generally speaking, I've done sleeves in less time. Some of them have taken more time. But like days and days most of the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Significant amount of time then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's just the time it takes to tattoo it. Like you've got to have the consult and then converse about the perfect design as well. So if you don't see eye to eye with somebody, the tattooist might be trying to do things that you're not quite into with the design, and vice versa. Like some clients are just unrealistic to expect a particular tattooist to do that. Like a tattooist that specializes in traditional, American style tattoos, they'll be able to do a portrait. It's not going to be a photorealism portrait. They would be able to do like a really cool stylized portrait. So it's a give and take thing. You've got to get along with your clients, but the clients have to get along with the tattooist, and everyone needs to make exceptions in certain ways. The perfect client doesn't exist. The perfect tattooist doesn't exist. You've just got to find that right fit that you like. And whether it means if you've got a mate that does tattoos that might not be the best tattoos, but you really enjoy going to them, sweet, so be it. As long as you're happy with the tattoos, at the end of the day, like I don't have to live with the tattoos that I do, but my clients do. So that's the most important part. And some people are happy with a shitty wee tattoo that they've paid a box of Cody's for, but most people wouldn't be,
No, that's right. Outside of work, outside of tattoos, what else are you passionate about?
I like hanging out at home with the family, having a couple beers on a Saturday night, because that's the start of my weekend. Gardening.
Gardening. Yeah.
I've got a wee greenhouse at home. I've got quite a few carnivorous plants in there. Few Central American air plants that their roots only hold on to things, so they're quite a fascinating thing. I like making knives.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
One of my clients gave me some high carbon steel, so making little fixed blade belt knives and stuff, because that combines metalworking, with steel and brass and copper and woodworking. I quite often find being a tattooer, going back to my childhood, drawing was my escape. This was my happy place. But now, if I draw a picture, chances are it'll be a tattoo concept after a while. So then that drags my happy place back into work. So if I need an escape, it's making something, So making knives is the big one at the moment. The art form of making all of the different types of wood work together on the handle, and then fabricating a blade, doing the research into what the blade's called or having ideas about it, and just making that does take a lot of time. So I never have a day to just sit down and make a knife, but I guess that's, as a parent, that's part of the fun of it. If you could find something that you can do for like half an hour after work that doesn't get in the way of family time per se, sweet. It's a good escape. It's a creative escape.
Yeah.
I've made some medieval weapons in the past as well. I like stuff. I like making things. I like figuring out how things work. All sorts of stuff. Yeah.
I think it's healthy having a thing that you've got that's outside of work, it's outside of family, it's something for yourself.
Absolutely.
I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
And whether it's running, you're by yourself, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a passion that you can have just for yourself, I think there's something in that. There
is, definitely. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just at work all the time, and all you exist for after work is to get ready for the next day. And humans are not really designed to do that, in my mind. Even though I love every day of my job, I love the whole process, the whole creative process. I can't always be this idea-generating machine,
That's right.
And I mean, occasionally from time to time, every tattooist has a bit of a creative block, because it's not an everlasting well. It's not like a fountain of creativity. It does run out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think letting that recharge in the weekends rather than constantly pushing ideas out, that's a big thing. And one thing I did notice when I started tattooing full time, you don't get any physical exercise as a tattooist. You're on an office stool, basically, wheeling around the studio. The only cardio you get is walking to your car. So I think for mental health reasons, everyone needs to have some physical exercise.
Totally agree.
Luckily I've got a couple of kids at home, and cardio could be just running around after one of them for a day. There's a lot of steps that parents take within the house. But doing something that I guess can stimulate creativity. So going for a walk definitely stimulates the hell out of your creativity. Because if you're just going for a walk, all you've got to do is keep moving. So then your brain is free to just do whatever it wants, So you get awesome ideas going for a walk.
Yeah, big
My
time.
favourite place, my mental health reset is climbing a hill.
Yeah, there's something about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your only reward is getting to the top, apart from the dopamine rush and the physical exercise.
Yeah.
The journey is filled with views, and then even on the way down, if you take the same path, it's the same views but from a different perspective. So point A to point B, that's walking up a hill and then walking back, but it's the journey as well as the destination. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing a walk up a hill and back, your destination is where you started, right?
Yes.
But then it's filling in time, doing good stuff along the way. And it's quite a nice analogy for life, really, isn't it?
I think you're right. Yeah. I couldn't agree more with you. I think there's something about going and having a different perspective of like the elevation and being
Yeah.
above things. I think
Yeah.
that's a part of it as well.
It's very calming, eh?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also got a soft spot for forests, man.
Forest and nature. Yeah.
If I can get somewhere in the country where I can't see any evidence of humans or hear anything, then sweet as. Because I know my phone's not going to go off, and I'm not going to have to like talk to somebody about a tattoo design in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the switch off from work. And then I think getting as far away from humanity as possible sometimes is definitely therapeutic. I think one of my favourite places I've been to is right at the top end of Lake Sumner.
Oh yeah.
There's pretty much nothing there. It's a valley covered in grass. You've got native forests on either side. If you go too far in one direction, you end up on the west coast. You've got Arthur's Pass on the other side of you. It is the most calmly desolate place I've been to, the most alone I've been in such a good way.
Wow.
Yeah, because all you can hear is like the occasional bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, it is such a great thing.
It is, right? It's hugely valuable. Like I never really understood the value of nature and being in it and just being away from civilization.
Yeah.
Also the bush forests. And
well,
then
you grew up on the coast. Were you surrounded by the bush?
I did, but I mean, having been over here and just not
Yeah.
being in that immediate environment, I
Yeah.
just sort of drifted away from it. But
it's easy
coming
not
back
to
to
do.
it, yeah, it's
Yeah, I
incredible.
mean, when you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, I guess, you focus so much on work. And I guess for people like us, we need the population. We need to be in a city. So we don't have the luxury of being able to drive 3 hours from civilization and live there. But I think it is important for humans in general to just sort of keep in touch, in a sense, with nature, with just getting out of the rat race,
Yeah.
even if it's for a day.
Yeah. And you don't need to go necessarily far away, like Riccarton Bush, for example.
Yeah, bro.
It's an amazing,
We're so lucky
amazing
in Christchurch,
place.
man. We are so lucky in Christchurch.
Totally.
You've got the Rapaki up
Yeah.
there. You've got the Port Hills, man.
love Rapaki.
Like, yeah, and then you can drive past Taylor's Mistake up to Godley Heads and look out. You drive in any direction and you're out of the city.
You're in somewhere
You've got Castle
interesting.
Hill, you've got Peel Forest just down the road. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
nuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's both that and also just the value of taking time away and
Yeah.
resting and
Yeah.
recharging, like
Yeah.
you say about creativity and needing to fill that back up. I
Yeah.
think it's the same with energy, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I often overlooked that and just thought that you could keep on going and going and that there's this endless
You
well.
can try. Absolutely, you can try. But like, if you're physically exhausted, what are you going to do? You're going to have a break. You're going to sit down. You're going to probably have a sleep.
Yeah.
So I think the brain is much like that as you can think. Like if you're constantly pumping out ideas for tattoos or ideas of who you can interview for a podcast, there's a limit to everything. You can't constantly do that.
That's
you can
right.
train yourself to do it more often. Most people can come to me and spit out what they're thinking about for a tattoo, and I can within a couple of minutes come up with a concept sketch that I would be super happy to tattoo. But that's 10 years of training plus graphic design study plus like 30 years drawing experience. Like that. This is all stuff that I call upon to do so. So yes, I think I am pretty good. I don't think I'm the bottomless well. I can also see how people less experienced than me get overburdened by coming up with ideas all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy thing. I think it's purely just repetition.
Yeah.
Just going back to the hopeful apprentices out there, like it's repetition. Keep drawing.
Yeah.
Keep drawing.
Totally.
Keep drawing. Like every spare minute, draw
Yeah.
pictures.
Just do the reps, right? I think the muscle in the gym analogy
Yeah, absolutely.
crosses over a lot to other parts of life,
Yeah.
and whether that's tattooing or podcasting or any type
Anything.
of type of pursuit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is perfect at anything the first time they do it.
No.
But if you don't do it because you're scared of failing, then you'll never do it, right?
Yeah. The chase of perfection, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But
What is it that Sharky said in his podcast? It's either one day or day one.
one day of day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever way you look at it, you've got to start somewhere.
That's right. Yeah. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast or any other marketing medium like that? Like a YouTube channel or?
I think quite often with some of the yarns of a bunch of tattooers and a bunch of like-minded clients in a studio, I think it would be a hilarious podcast to just record the shit we talk about. We'd get cancelled fucking quick. One episode we would have everyone just trying to burn down the shop because we're, with creativity comes somebody getting offended. So we talk dumb shit. We don't mean to offend anyone, but people are very easily offended. Particularly like around 2:30, not that everyone gets offended around 2:30, but most tattooists after tattooing all day, their brain is fucking loopy, man. We're all over the place.
The fuse is pretty short.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Like some of the stuff we talk about, on Saturday talking with Lissy out in our wee smoko area having a cheeky vape. I asked her, do you think dogs' eyebrows just keep on going? Because, dogs are covered in fur and sometimes it's like an eyebrow. So maybe a dog's eyebrow just covers their entire body.
Oh, yeah.
This is the crucial stuff that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Absolutely. But yeah, just haywire brain farts.
Yeah.
And most of the time, because we've been speaking all day, we're just talking. And then some crowded house comes on, so we all sing along and it's great,
Yeah.
It's happy times. But yeah, that's the podcast that I think I would like to do, but I would have to have a completely independent third party listen to it prior to publication to make sure nobody's going to get offended. Or have a really explicit R18 warning, because we're bound to offend somebody. It's a tattoo studio, man.
I think so. But, if you're not being true to yourself, then it's going to be watered down, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think just an exclaimer would be good.
Yeah,
if
I
I
think
ever
so.
do it, there will be an exclaimer. Yeah.
Be warned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, strong language. There's bound to be some tattooers out there that think the earth is flat, and man, there's a lot of atheist tattooers and all sorts of stuff. We all speak our mind. We're all unique people with some form of past, but we talk shit, man. Tattooers talk absolute shit sometimes.
Have you ever been halfway through a tattoo and it's gotten awkward?
In what way awkward?
I don't know, just for whatever reason, maybe someone got offended, or maybe the conversation went weird.
I put my foot in it sometimes, eh? I definitely put my foot in it. I recently did a tattoo for a regular client whose mum had recently passed away from the big C, unfortunately. And after the tattoo, without thinking, I asked him, like I usually do, I usually ask if I can tag them or, invite them as a collaborator on Instagram. And I asked this particular guy, do you mind if I tag you on Instagram, or you're not trying to hide it from mum or anything? And then I instantly apologized because I did not think my questions through. That's one example. I dare say I've offended hundreds of people without realizing it. Perhaps, there's the guys several years ago that I've outlined their back. Maybe I've offended them. That's why they're not coming back. I don't know. You never know as a tattooist, because nobody wants to offend the tattooist.
No.
If you do a rubbish tattoo, your client's still going to be like, that's real cool. That's real cool. And then you'll never see them again.
Yeah.
And then 6 years later, you'll hear from a mate that works in another studio. It's like, I covered up one of your fucking shit. Apprentice tattoos. And to be fair, some of my first tattoos, I hope they've been covered up, There's some stuff that only in retrospect I can think, shit, that was rubbish. Why was I doing that?
Bit like the earlier episodes of the podcast.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, you got to start somewhere.
You do have to start somewhere. And as long as you're not pretending that you know how to tattoo out of your garage, then sweet.
Then you're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
I've got a question. It's a way to. I was going to steal this idea from Diary of a CEO, the one where you ask a question that the previous guest has left behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to just change it up and ask the same question for every guest.
Yep.
Which is, what advice would you give to her? No, actually, different one. What's your best experience and why?
Inside of tattooing or outside?
Just in general.
Ooh, best experience. I've got several of them. I've been truly blessed with my life so far. Cutting the umbilical cord of my son Theo was a special experience, and then carrying him over to my wife, who had just had a C-section. Beautiful experience. There's so many things about that moment that are etched in my brain permanently. I remember on my wedding day to my beautiful wife Courtney, smiling so hard that my cheeks were fucking cramping up like nothing else, but I couldn't stop smiling.
Wow.
Yeah, those are two very key moments. But then I am so lucky with my life that I get to go to my studio every day, hang out with homies basically, and then come home to a loving family. So it's a fucking hard question to answer, bro. Like, every day is blessings, you know. It's an amazing life.
Wow.
I think if you go through a day and there's nothing good about it, you've got to either look harder or change your life, man.
I think that's a great sentiment. That.
What about yourself?
Absolutely. Best experience?
Yeah. What is the best experience in your life?
It's
a hard one, eh?
It's an unexpected question to come back on me.
Perfect fodder for a podcast, though. Like, it's open-ended.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure if this is the best experience, but I'm going to use it because I think it's
a good experience.
It's a good experience, and it's worth noting. It was finishing my first marathon. Yeah. So running that race, and I think why it's such a good experience for me was that it got so hard, and there were so many times when you did it. It's like the hero's journey story.
Absolutely.
You know, it would have been easy to bail out.
And you wouldn't start a marathon without training. So there's months and months of planning and life to go into it.
Totally. A lot of preparation, and like the thing that carried me through that race, there was this like young girl that just like ran beside me for the last say 5-6K, and I was like so grateful because I was at the point of walking, right? Because I evidently hadn't trained well enough. Yeah,
and you had that temporary camaraderie from.
Yeah, she was just like, totally. She's just like, look, just keep going, like, just keep going, like, you don't have to, you don't have to go fast, but just keep going.
Just keep going.
And I was like, holy shit, this just like made this doable, right?
Absolutely.
And then like that feeling of accomplishment at the end, and also just that feeling of, I guess like, perseverance and proving to myself that it could be done.
Absolutely.
So that was came to mind.
That is a great thing, and that is an experience that not everyone would be able to do.
I think that leads on to another one, which was getting the 42 tattooed on me.
You can get a 42 tattooed on you.
I did, yeah.
Oh, you did it?
I did, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, not directly after, but in a later time.
Yeah. You would have been way too tired, completely like zonked after a marathon.
Yeah.
I don't think you would enjoy that feeling.
No, I mean, I don't know if I enjoyed it at the time.
Well, yeah.
But, good experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty, man. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, bro.
Any final wisdom you want to leave on?
Man, I think we have covered so much.
We have.
Look, I think anyone that listens to this, from a business point of view, definitely send me a message if you're after a tattoo. If it is a tattoo that I'm not able to do, then I know other tattooers. You know, I love meeting new people. I love hearing ideas. I love hearing every individual's take on what makes a cool tattoo. So send me a message. Come see me down at the Doom Room in Ilam there, 401A Ilam Road. Even if you're curious about the tattoo industry and you've never had the balls to walk into a tattoo studio, just because you come in and have a look doesn't mean you have to get a tattoo. So, maybe you're out with Nan and Nan's like, oh, those bloody tattoo shops. And then you can bring Nan into our tattoo studio and we will probably prove to her that, yes, we look a bit weird, but we're actually quite nice people.
We're actually nice humans. Yeah,
we are nice humans.
That's a great offer, actually, because I myself would be someone that would have a lot of trepidation about the industry. And, I think a lot of the listeners may or may not have tattoos, but I think to have that common connection, like you've been on the podcast, you're sitting in front of me, like how good. That's a really great offer.
If you ever find yourself in the area, we're open Tuesday to Saturday, generally 9 till 5-ish. So if you're in the area and you want to pop in and just have a look around, man.
No, that's cool. I really like that.
You'll probably be able to see me at work, and if it's around 2:30, bro, like I'll just be talking some absolute shit. And you're welcome to join in.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Man, thank you so much.
No worries.
Thanks, Josh.